Good evening. This is another episode of USI, but we are now at the stage where we're going to do a series of shows for you guys to actually dig deeper into American sport. The first one we're looking at is the college football system. So this is the college football 101. Now the aim of these series is it's obviously for those who are across the pond like I am in the UK or anywhere else across the world who may watch the game, because we probably do watch NFL or college football or ice hockey or basketball, but these series are going to give us a deeper understanding as to what goes on within it, what goes in behind the scenes, and so on and so forth. So got my two amazing guests as per usual. Santiago, as you can see, he's repping Baylor, and Jay, who's representing LSU, I believe.
LSU, that's it.
LSU. So, guys, I'm going to leave you in their capable hands. They're going to talk us through the college football system, and I'll be back with a Q&A shortly.
All right. So I thought that the best way to go ahead and approach this would be to just walk through as if you were in the eyes of a high schooler or somebody who's in preparatory school, going ahead and trying to make it into the college football systems. Now, that's the most traditional way to get in. Now that you can walk on as well. So pretty much you play through, and Jay, you mentioned, the star system, right? You want to touch a little on that?
Exactly. Yeah. So how the star system work? Like publications, online publications, preps. There's a few other ones. There's ESPN has one as well, and they basically rank you by position and then overall. And star systems 1 to 3. Most of the best 1 to 5, excuse me. The best recruits are 1 to 3 to 5 stars, and so that tells you where you're going to get recruited to. So the best schools, they're only going to be recruiting 4 and 5 stars every year. Yeah, so it's a little bit different than coming up through the youth football system in Europe and around the world, where you go to the academy when you're younger. In America, you can go to high schools or secondary that are specialized with like great football programs. But it's completely different. You still got to go to school through the whole process. Whereas I think maybe in the academies, they're a little bit less, just get your basic education, so you might know a little bit more about that, Santiago.
Well, yeah, I mean, and on that end too, I know that, so traditionally here in America, you go to a high school that you're regionalized to, right? So you end up going to where, depending on where you live, that's the high school that you are assigned. I know that sometimes there are families who do move to be specifically within a certain school, region, because they know that high school has a really good football program and is traditionally good at getting folks recruited. So that does. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I had 2 high schools in my hometown in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they were national powers. Evangel High School, and there was another one. There was a Christian Academy and Calvary, and pretty much they would spot you though. Like if you were in one of the smaller towns nearby, if you were really good, they would give you a because they were private schools. They would give you a scholarship, and you can. If you're good, you're guaranteed to at least get to a decent college to play football. Maybe not the best, but you can get onto a team. Like lots of those kids went on to play college. Some made it to the league, not a ton, but some made it to the NFL.
Yeah, And I think it's something that maybe it is normal to us too, but we always see a lot of coverage, even within high school prospects. There's tons of articles, tons of analysts who do
Yes.
cover those. I think there's like that ESPN 300 too, like
Yes.
they
That's
rank.
the list I was talking about. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so pretty much playing through your senior year of high school here, which would be 12th grade or 12th year, and um, there's a certain deadline that you have to elect a school. So you end up having a lot of different choices depending on I guess how well you've played and how well you've been scouted, on that end too. So I mean, there's several different conferences within college football.
Oof, a lot.
Now, I guess let me ask you: did you have any thoughts around that, like National Signing Day?
National Signing Day, it's a big thing. The equivalent in England, Europe would be like a highly touted free agent. They're coming up to the end of their contract, and you're wondering like, who are they going to sign for? And these kids, it's an opportunity for some of them to have. They have little ceremonies at their high schools, and traditionally they'll have like ball caps on the table with the different teams they choose, and they get to pick a team. And the most diehard college fans, I mean, on National Signing Day. Yeah, you're following along on Twitter. You're trying to see like if the kid you were recruiting, if he's going to sign with you. And these are young 17 and 18-year-old kids. So, they'll say they're going to do one thing and do something else, or like their mom and dad wants them to go to one school, the regional. They obviously want them to go to the hometown school, and they might go to a rival or something. So it's a lot of drama if you follow that. It's actually turned into like an event, like National Signing Day, like it's a big thing, grabbing the ball cap on the table and putting the cap on for the team you support. It's a really, really big thing. So
Yeah.
it's something else, equivalent to like a free agent signing almost. And the highly touted free agent, very similar deal.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember, back in high school, whenever, suddenly you knew who the folks that ended up getting, scouted or signing for a school, because, there was that day they would all come up, with their hat and their shirt, and, just walk
Yeah.
into school, and everybody like, hey, like you got into that school.
Yeah. It's
Um,
really awesome.
so yeah, that is kind of a cool little celebration there. Now, as far as the conferences, I mean, like Jay said, there is a lot. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I know all of the conferences, just because there are so many.
Right.
There are 5 big ones
I have
within
them
the college
here.
football.
Yeah, I have them. If you good in order, we have the ACC, which is the East Coast United States. Most of those teams are on the East Coast. We have the Big Ten, and that's mostly what we call like the Midwest of the United States, the middle of the country, like the rural areas of the country. That's where those schools are at. We have the Big 12, which is southwest to the middle of the country. It's kind of, they kind of, some of the conferences realigned a little bit weird over the years because teams switch conferences for whatever reasons. Like West Virginia's in the Big 12. That's completely geographically not correct. The Pac-12 Pacific. So yeah, that's actually geographically correct. Mostly all West Coast teams out there, and traditionally play the late games because they're on the West Coast, West time zone. So we like to call that Pac-12 after dark. If you're a football fan, you can watch college football from when you wake up to when you go to bed to see the Pac-12 play. And then the SEC, Southeast Conference. That's the last one. Southeastern United States mostly there. And yeah, those are the Power Five. The Power Five is what we call them. Those are the powers, technical powers of the college football world.
Yeah, and but like you mentioned too, like most of the time, I feel like most like these conferences were just set up maybe like geographically.
Mm-hmm.
You do have random anomalies. Big 12 is like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, so really just kind of down the middle there in the country. But then you do have West Virginia, that's kind of way out there. The Pac-12 has like the Arizona schools, right, that are just kind of a little bit I guess sort of out of the way, but I guess there's really no other conference that they're close to.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it at least makes a little bit sense with the Arizona schools, but yeah, the West Virginia one is the one I always laugh at because I don't even know why they went over there. I can't even remember, but it was pretty funny. But yeah.
yeah, so I guess sort of like taking you through that journey.
Oh, wait a minute.
Go.
There's one important thing you remember in your college football knowledge. There's always this one wild card team, and they were amazing years ago, and they're still really good every year. Not enough to win a championship, but you've probably seen this logo. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. They decided to be an independent school in football, which you can do that in college. You can have a conference in one sport, and Notre Dame, they don't have a conference in football, but I believe they may be in the ACC in basketball, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong about that, but yeah. So they're a really great team who they kind of get to break the rules, and everybody's just okay with it. Which is not a hard, steady rule. They just don't have a conference, so they play random great teams all year, and yeah, they just usually end up in the mix because of the heritage. Almost, it's like they're always in the mix because they have that football heritage, American football heritage.
Absolutely, and I think they actually play one less game than everybody because they're not in a conference.
And it's not a championship game for them. That's correct.
So yeah. I mean, and then one thing to keep in mind too is so college football, it generally starts towards the end of August. Or I guess right now they're probably kicking off, and they don't necessarily have a preseason. They have like friendly skirmishes, among the team, right?
Yeah.
So that's one difference between the NFL. So no preseason games. It's typically going to last, to December or January, depending on the amount of games you end up playing.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going to be roughly like 10 to 13 games.
10 to 13 is depending on your conference, you're looking at 10 to 13 games.
Yeah. Now,
exactly.
So, pretty much, you spend your springtime practicing, drilling, and, getting better, right? Because these are your developing years, very similar to, developing in other sports, to kick off to the season. It is a 13-week season. You do have some off weeks or bye weeks, similarly to the NFL. So, and I guess sort of taking you through this instance, should we go ahead and pretend that we are recruits and we've just signed somewhere? I guess sort of to go ahead and take us through that journey.
Yeah. So you're a new recruit. If you're like super highly touted, you can attempt to graduate high school early. And you can start, if you live close enough by, you can start attending. I know a few athletes that did it. You attend spring practice, especially if you're a highly touted athlete. You might get to play your freshman year. So they want you to start learning the system because every team has a scheme, a system, or whatnot. And the playbooks in football, even on the high school level, the playbooks could start getting very complex. And so the first thing you're going to do is come on campus. You're probably going to get hazed a little bit in a friendly manner. You're the new guy. And if you can get to that spring practice, you're gonna go to that, start learning playbook, and they're probably going to start feeding the heck out of you and putting you in the weight room because lots of kids, lots of these kids don't get to eat. Like they don't eat as much as they should. And some of them don't have access to food all the time. Some of them don't eat a lot because we're kids. Their eating is erratic. So they're going to put you on a great diet and they're going to get you in and put you in the weight room. So some of these kids can gain 10, 20 pounds over their time in college, and it's just, they really, these college programs, they have these strict regimens and they really know how to it's like cookie cutter, like eat this when I tell you to eat this and go lift these weights. And so coming into the fall when season's coming up, even if you're really good, if you're on a really stacked team, like some of the top teams we're going to talk about, if we have time, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, you might not get to play your first year. Even if you're extremely talented, you might not get to play. And that's if you don't play that year, you can still go to practice and stuff. They give you what's called a red shirt. I don't think you literally, I don't know if you literally wear a red shirt, but they call it a red shirt year, where you go to college, you go to practices, and you do everything, but you don't play in a game. So your regular college eligibility takes you 4 years to traditionally get a degree. You have 4 years of eligibility. Well, if you get that red shirt, you get to play for a 5th year. You get to play a little bit longer. And they're kind of like, it's kind of like saving a player. Saving the player and having him an extra, you still get him the rest of his years, his 4 years. I guess is the similar equivalency would be like red shirt. I mean, sending a guy out on loan to a team in a smaller league somewhere and like letting them get some getting some playing time without playing in tougher league, I guess. So that's probably like the closest comparison, like having a youth recruit sending them out on loan.
I guess really the only other scenario I guess I could see it being compared to like would be maybe signing somebody and then playing them like in like the under 23s.
Yeah, that same thing.
Under
Same
18,
thing too.
maybe. But yeah, I mean, generally, so you do get to, with your red shirt, you generally do get to sit out that year. There are some cases where injuries do happen from time to time.
I think 4 games. I think 4 games is the limit. I think you can redshirt 4 games, and if an injury happens after that 4th game, I believe it's 4 games. You can still play that year. I think there may be a limit unless they change the limit to how many games you can redshirt in a year before you have to sit out the year.
Yeah. Now I know too, like, sometimes it might not be in the plans, but injuries happen and you might only get to play half a season. The 2 guys and ahead of you in the lineup are injured or out for whatever reason. And so, they have to, what they say, pulling the red shirt. So then, you're now in the roster and that does count as one of your seasons. So it does depend, right? Like I think there are a certain amount of games, but
also another special red shirt is, let's say I'm in year 2, I'm having a good career and I have a catastrophic injury. You can apply for a medical red shirt and you still get your 4 years of eligibility, so everybody's not going to the NFL. So the people that are going to the NFL, they'll play their required years usually, and they'll usually go ahead and go to the NFL because you'll be getting paid then. But for the people who are just, grinding it out, just want to get all their college football years, you apply for that medical red shirt and you'll get another chance to maybe prove yourself even. You can still make it to the NFL. So, yeah.
Now, I know I'm not too clear on what gray shirts are. I think it's whenever you enroll early, right? And like you can just attend the school without having to actually be in the program. Because those are very, very few.
Yeah. I forgot about gray shirts. I don't even remember how that works now. It's been a while since I looked into that. Yeah. Gray shirts. Yeah. What was that? I'll look into that.
I think it's like you're enrolled, but you don't start until your 2nd semester.
There might be that thing I was talking about earlier with kids who enroll early to go to spring ball. Like they'll basically let them graduate in December high school, and they'll take, it's really the English. You have to have your 4 Englishes and all your maths, I think. And I think some kids will try to cram that in early and graduate and then, go to school early. So that might be what that gray shirt is. That's a good point.
I think so. Because I think it's that one's like a super uncommon one, but so yeah, that's something that of course keep in mind too now. So pretty much once you sign on, you will either play on as a freshman or you will be redshirted. And like you said, it really depends on the level of program. So you actually have Division 1, Division 2. So you have several divisions because there's that many universities, and that many programs that are all competing to try and be the best ones.
You can go all the way to like Division 3. Like I was a smart student, but I was a mediocre athlete. And I got recruited by Division 3 colleges, like super small schools. And I'm freely telling you now, I was not great at football. I was okay at my local level, but definitely not enough but they need bodies even at those tiny obscure colleges with like 5,000 people or something, like those colleges. So those are the ones you don't get to see those on TV as much. But there's Division I is what most people get excited about and watch, and then the Division II. They have some pretty exciting. Their playoffs are usually pretty exciting, and they usually air those on ESPN. And they have some powerhouses down there. I think Carson Wentz went to one of those big time Division II schools. I can't remember. Was it North Dakota State? I think North Dakota State. I think it was. They had a pretty solid run in the Division II, Division II football. But yeah, that's and as if we're changing the subject a little bit, if we're going on like the new guy on campus enrolling, the aspects of football itself, if you're not as familiar, offense, there's a squad that plays all on offense, squad that plays only on defense, and then you have the special teams. So you have punt team, punt return team, kickoff team, and then kickoff return team. So I don't know if we're going to get all the way into the X's and O's of like all the way those work, but to keep it simple, we call those last four I just named special teams. So your starters, your superstars, they're mostly going to be on offense or defense. And then your faster athletes, they might be on the kickoff or punt return team to, catch the punt, catch the kickoff, and maybe run it back. But the rest of those spots have to be filled out. So me being a freshman, even a highly talented freshman, I might be on one of the special teams, and you could get your playing time there. So that's that's a lot of times you'll get to the lower spots on the roster. They have to fill out the special team. So from the perspective of a new guy going into college, you might be getting a special team slot. If you're really amazing, you'll play right away. They'll get you on the field for offense and defense. But if you're really, really good, not quite maybe amazing, you're gonna be fighting for positions and spots on special teams. So yeah, I thought that was a good place to start there on that one.
Yeah. And I mean, it's sort of interesting, I guess, kind of like a little bit of a shout out. And I don't know if maybe you experienced this or not, but I've always heard it be super common here in Texas, at least, that the kicker or the punter is usually recruited from the soccer team.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Fun story. I had in high school, I had a foreign exchange student from Brazil. I just remember his name was Tiago. I didn't know how common that name was then, now that I watch world football. But his name was Tiago, and we had him. He was a foreign exchange. So he was excited to be there, and he was our kicker for the year, and he did well. He never played before, and they just took him out there for a couple of weeks before his season started, and he was just so excited to play American football. And I think I wonder how that guy's doing. That was many years ago now, because I'm really old. But yeah, that was funny that you said that, because that just brought up a memory. I haven't thought about that in years to just now.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of
because my school was so small where I'm from. We didn't have a soccer team till I left, and it was only the girls then. So yeah, we didn't even. Yeah, so we had the first soccer player we met. We put him on the field. We put him on the field and had him kick it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, I mean, that's I've heard stories. I've heard sometimes. I think it's probably going to become less common in the future because the U.S. men's soccer team is getting better. But
yeah,
I think before you used to have some really good soccer players, and they kind of looked at their options and were like, well, really the only viable option for me moving forward is playing football. So I'm going to go be the kicker. And, I'm sure there's somebody out there that
kickers. Hey, you can still be a millionaire being a kicker in the league or a punter. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Not a bad, and you get hit the least out of everybody. So that's not a bad job at all.
Isn't it like a penalty, like most of the time? To touch the kicker.
Yeah, if he's not touching that ball, the punter, you can't touch him, and the kicker usually is not involved unless something goes completely wrong on the kickoff. So, yeah, those guys usually, guys usually have it pretty easy. Very specialized.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit of a special shout out. But yeah, back on topic there. There are. So we talked about the most traditional way of getting into a school. There's a couple others. We talked about, so there's a lot of universities that are 4-year universities. There are some that are 2 years. So they do, instead of what's a bachelor's degree here, they do associate's degrees, and it's called junior college.
Yes.
And you will hear them as JUCO, sort of for shortened. So you can play at a junior college, and then go ahead and then transfer universities to a 4-year university. So and a lot of times, universities will scout those guys and recruit those guys, and some of those guys are game changers too.
Yes.
So,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. LSU fan, aforementioned. We had a guy from maybe he might have came from North Dakota State, and he played linebacker. I believe his name was Allie Gay. I don't have the name off the top of my head, but yeah, he was at college. He decided to transfer from a Division II school, and he transferred over to LSU and had a heck of a year. And that 1 year at LSU, he got drafted. So he got the NFL draft, 7 rounds. We're going to hit on that a little bit later, but yeah, that the JUCO route is a legitimate route. It's a very, very legitimate route to getting where you need to go. Because if you're special, you're going to shine. And it might be something. Colleges still have entrance requirements. You have to have a certain type of grades to get in. So if you were messing around in high school, you can go to junior college, get good grades there, get your life together, get your stuff together there, and then you can transfer to the big school. And then you still one thing to keep in mind for all of this, these schools still have grade requirements, and a lot of these schools, and some of the schools like Notre Dame, I believe, is one of them. Stanford and Stanford. I always get it confused. Stanford and California, they became like a mini. They had a couple of great seasons. They're still really good, but they're that's one of the best just regular colleges in the country. Going to Stanford as a regular person is amazing. Graduating with a degree from Stanford it's right in the middle of Silicon Valley in California, where all the new tech stuff happening at. So they're great out there, and it was amazing to see them have great teams for 5 to 10 year stretch with those requirements, because some of those unfortunately sometimes those educational requirements are so high you kind of can't get in some better athletes sometimes can't get in. So that's one of those things. JUCO is a very good option.
Absolutely. So I mean there's that aspect too, and there are walk-ons. I remember we had one guy that he was a walk-on running back for Baylor a few years ago. I'm talking 2014, 2013 maybe. And oh my gosh, the fan base loved the guy. And I just remember they gave him the nickname for whatever reason, because his name was Nasitas. But he would go by a salsa nacho, and so the crowd would just chant salsa nacho. I don't know, but
that's great. That's so great, man.
Yeah.
JJ Watt went to, I believe, Western Michigan. He was a skinny tight end, and he transferred to Wisconsin. He worked at a Pizza Hut delivering pizzas, and he walked onto the football team. And he worked every day and worked really hard, and he became one of the best players in the country. Now he's had a Hall of Fame career, and he has 2 brothers in the league too. Set the path for his brothers too. But he was a pizza delivery guy and just made his way to the team and worked harder than everybody, and just a freak athlete, and gained weight. He probably was eating those pizzas he was delivering, and now he's a Hall of Famer. But so that was a transfer, which is something else you could do, and a walk-on. So that's the other route, the JUCO transfer. And if we want to transition to the regular transfer, where in the past 5 years, Santiago can vouch for this. When him and I were younger, a transfer was oh, somebody's transferring, and it was just a huge deal. And now nowadays, if a guy that somebody's going to be a starting quarterback, for instance, and he and I'm not judging, by the way. You need to do what's best for you, and if you can make your make your dreams, but he might oh, you're going to be a starter, and somebody beats him out for his position on the team. he'll just transfer. He'll put his name in what's called the transfer portal, and he'll transfer to another team. And it used to be where you couldn't the conferences we mentioned prior, you couldn't transfer in the same conference, which is, I think it's a legitimate, like, I think that's maybe a good rule, you know. But now the argument's been like, well, a coach can quit whenever he wants and go to another school, even in the same conference. Why can't the students? So I don't know if the rules are completely lifted on that, but do you know if they can transfer in conference now if they want?
They can.
I
I
think they
think
have to be allowed.
the most notorious one, Baker Mayfield. He transferred from
That's right.
Texas Tech to Oklahoma, which is within the Big 12. Both schools. But yeah, I mean, prior to that, I remember. There are sometimes times where maybe a coach gets fired or something happens along the school, and the players would get stuck there, or they'd have to try and figure out how to, like, ways to kind of get out of it.
Yeah, coaches schemes are these schemes we're talking about, like we're not going to be able to get into near about everything. We might have to do another episode or something, but the schemes are very serious in any football. And so, like, you have one coach, you got recruited to the school, and this coach passes the ball a lot, just passes the ball down the field. That coach gets fired or leaves, and then the next coach gets hired. He likes to run the ball a lot. Well, you got to recruit different type of players to do that. Absolutely. And so, yeah, you might be excellent at what you were doing, but you might be completely in the wrong situation now. And it's really, I mean, it's kind of nobody's fault, but it's one of those things where, like, if you might look like, if you have a small chance to make it to the NFL, like, shoot, man, if you make it to the NFL and just play out your first contract, for most people in the world, in the country, US, like, that's life-changing money. Even if you're not necessarily like several millions, but if you can, like, earn a couple of $1,000,000 over 5 years, even if you don't get to your next contract, like, it's a lot of guys that's like, they're on like a razor's edge trying to make that, and something like a coach getting fired or leaving could totally change that. So yeah, that's not to get. I keep trying not to do too many deep dives here, because this can go down like so many rabbit holes. But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's a good call out there. I mean, like, because even within certain subjects too, like, you have certain types of quarterbacks, you have certain types of receivers, you have certain types of running backs. So even if it is a coach that does pass a lot and another one comes in and passes a lot, their play style could not be a good fit.
That's exactly right. Exactly. So
right. Yeah, we're not going to get into those nuances though, but just for the sake of time.
Yeah.
But and so that's something that it was a little bit of a game changer within college football to be able to have those free range transfers. Now, to also kind of go, a little bit of I guess, putting ourselves in the shoes of somebody that, let's say you sign on, you redshirt your first year, and then you come in and play. Now, depending on the level of school, or even within those top 5 conferences, there are some conferences or some schools in that those conferences that might be better at other sports than basketball.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple that come to mind, like Kansas,
Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, Kentucky, and their goals might not be quite as lofty as going undefeated for the season. Their goals might be to get into a bowl game.
Okay.
So I think it's a good sort of transition topic, right?
Good transition, yeah. So the bowl game structure is basically at the end of the year, there's about I want to say there's probably like 40, you say 30 to 40 bowl games.
There's quite a few.
Yeah, 30 to 40 bowl games. They add more every year, usually 1 or 2, or they rebrand. And basically what a bowl game is, it's like you go to a city and they basically, the city is like it gets the city tourism numbers, teams come by and they bid for teams in conferences who have at least a winning record. I think 5-5 is the lowest bowl you can get to. I know there used to be like the New Orleans Bowl, and they'll take a Sun Belt conference school, like a small conference school. But yeah, so the end of the year, like the highlighted end of the year, like your prize for playing well is how good of a bowl game you get to. And so we're not even including the national championships. But there's so many bowls that my hometown bowl is the Independence Bowl. It's usually a mid-level SEC school, and it used to be Big 12, but sometimes like last year with the COVID, I think they might have just put two teams in there, just whoever will take the bid. But when there's merge, but bigger bowl games. If you want to touch on this a little bit, the big bowl games are we got the Rose Bowl, and they call that the granddaddy of them all. It's like the most traditional, the bowl game with the most heritage. Yeah. And that's traditionally a Pac-12 school, a West Coast school versus a Big Ten school, traditionally. And that's one of the big bowls. The next big bowl is the Fiesta Bowl. That's in Arizona. I don't remember which schools get recruited for that one, which traditionally, but that's the second big one. Yeah. The next one is the Sugar Bowl. That's in New Orleans. Yeah. So every time I know as an LSU fan, like if the championship game is at the Sugar Bowl that year, I know if we get to that game, it'll be a home game. So that's one advantage because it's right down the road from LSU. That's funny, but that's usually SEC and maybe Big 12. I can't remember. They used to have traditional teams that would play these games, and the Orange Bowl is in Miami, and so those are the top bowl games. And so how it works is they rotate. How they used to do it is they would rotate each one of those. So that's four. They rotate each one of those four out as the championship game every year. So each one would take turns being the championship game every year. So, and it will culminate. They used to do what's called the BCS, where a computer would pick. Use some statistics. Nobody ever really knew what algorithms they were using to pick the best teams in the country. And up until 2014 or 2013, this computer would pick who would be in the championship game. It was super random. Sounds shady. I feel like somebody could have been manipulating that behind the scenes, but they combine that with, I think they do the coaches poll as well and combine those numbers, I think, to come up with the championship. That's all the coaches in the country pick their best. They give a ranking of their top teams, and they gather all those numbers up and they pick those. And then they switched it in 2014 into a playoff. And so they determined the college football champion to at least give a better chance than a computer guessing it to get a playoff. So there's a 14 playoff, and basically they rotate. Once again, they rotate. Each playoff is played at one of the big four Rose games: the Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, or Orange Bowl. And then the final game is the championship game, and they'll still play that game in one of those stadiums sometimes, I believe. I think every now and then, like I think they might have did one in Dallas one year because Dallas has the great stadium. But so the problem with that, if you're keeping up with all this math, is they put Final Four teams for the playoffs, and there are 5 major conferences. And so once again, the topic that we could dive so deep into, but as you might guess, there's lots of shenanigans on pick. Like, I don't know who decided that, but I guess they just said somebody's not going to get in every year. Good luck. So,
I mean, the topics could include something along the lines of there are, 5 conferences. There's 5 teams that should be good.
If Rich wanted us to come back and like just talk about bowl games and the championship, if Rich wanted us to come back and just talk about schemes, like just offense, defense, and break that down, like that could be a entirely other discussion. But sorry, Santiago, forgive me if I go a little bit too deep. We could I'll hand it back to you. I'll hand it back to you.
So now traditionally, I think the most standard way to get into a bowl game is 6 wins.
6, that's right.
You can get into like some bowl games being 5-5. It really just depends on how everything plays out, right?
At least a winning record. At least a winning record is the minimum. I feel like it's the minimum.
And so that sometimes like it's a big deal, right? Colleges, and we're talking pre-COVID world, but I mean colleges would put shuttles of students on buses to go, across the country to attend these bowl games. They're
Fun
a big
times.
deal. You get to see your school play against the school that you normally would not get to see play. So it's always very exciting. I guess sort of the equivalent would be you qualified to Europa or Champions League games, so you get to see your school within your league play another school.
It's a perfect example. It's a perfect example. See them playing somebody they would never play in a million years. So that's one of the fun things about the bowls. That's a great example.
Absolutely. It's and there are some conferences that have traditionally better records against other conferences too. So sometimes there's that conference rivalry. So even those teams that you normally wouldn't cheer for, I'm sure there's some exceptions. Especially when you get to rivalries.
Yeah.
But for example, if a random school in the Big 12 that is not a very big rival is playing somebody in the SEC, I might prefer that school to
I
win.
100% root for SEC except for Alabama.
There you go. See, for me, it would be TCU or Texas. So
fun story. I met a coworker the other day after work function, and I found out she played for UF and University of Florida. That's in the conference. It's a kind of a rival to us because we're usually both pretty good, and it's usually like an important game. So I kind of count Florida as a rival, but like a non-traditional rival. But she went to Florida, and I went to LSU branch, LSU Shreveport. But I went to I'm an LSU guy. And we're in DC right now. And it's funny because she was just like, I was like, wait, you went to Florida? And I was like, we can't be friends. But it was like, then we like shook hands and like, wait a minute, we're still SEC. And we both shook hands because it was just like, we're not an so we call it SEC country down deep south, southeast. It's like, we're not an SEC country right now. So we're friends because we're with the SEC. So that's funny that that just happened to me the other day. But it's just like, it's because college football is so regional like that. It's like you kind of like, if it's not your team, you kind of defer to your conference route, and it's really fun. It's really fun.
Yeah. Now, that sort of brings up a point that I think we both forgot about. There are some conferences that even within the conference, they have divisions.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
SEC is probably the most famous one for them. So my understanding is that you play your schedule on the teams within your division, right? Do you play any of the other teams outside of that division?
So how it works is my team LSU is in the SEC West, and my coworker, her in the SEC East, University of Florida, and you play everybody on your side of your conference. So you're playing all the West teams every year, and I think you played two. Forgive me. Let me start over.
Okay, no worries.
You every year, most conferences, when you play games, you play a couple of non-conference teams. If you're like a better school, so like LSU, Baylor, like you might play a smaller Texas Southern. I'm just making that up for better. I don't know who y'all traditionally play in your non-conference schedule. So you'll play like a smaller team, and how it works is, if your team's so much better than the other team, you pay them to play you. And so they make a lot of money. So usually they know they're going to get blown out. And the rare times they win those games, one or two of those games, the big school loses every year. So not only did you pay them, you paid that little school to come up there and beat you. So yeah, you can't, you try not to lose those games. We had a loss to Troy a couple of years ago. That was pretty devastating, but so after you play a couple of non-conference games, usually smaller teams, sometimes they'll play a better team from another conference, similar to a bowl game, usually the kickoff game every year. The last few years, LSU has played a couple of those. Like we opened up with Miami a couple of years ago. This year, we're going out to UCLA. Heaven forbid with COVID, it might still go. Might not be any fans out there, but maybe that game still happens at a neutral look. I don't know what's the update on that. But yeah, so LSU is in a competitive conference. So you got to try to play like maybe one good team outside of your conference, to try to like get your playoff chances. So rolling back into the scheduling. So you play a couple of non-conference games, random schools from anywhere, and then you get into your conference play. And your conference play is going to decide whether you go to your conference championship game. And your conference championship game is going to decide whether you get to play in the college football playoff. So in the SEC, I think it's about 14, if I'm not mistaken, teams in the SEC, 7 in each conference. And the West, 7 in each division. So SEC West, SEC East. You play everybody in the SEC West, and then we're going to play 1 or 2 schools every year. So there's we're locked into playing Florida every year. So that's just a traditional, like, I guess we'll call it a rivalry. I don't know if that's, I feel like I really don't like Florida, so I guess it's a rivalry. But so we play them every year, but we rotate everybody else around. So like Georgia, so we play Georgia like every 4 years. I moved to South Carolina, so I'm sad that we only play South Carolina there like every 8 years because they do home and away. So yeah, I think it's every 4 years they rotate through the other side of the conference, and I just don't know how many. So I think the Big 12 is different though, right? Y'all just
So the Big 12, everybody plays each other because even though it's called the Big 12, there's not 12 teams in there. So and that's just sort of the way that it ended up being. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you generally schedule these schools way ahead of time. So, usually years ahead of time, like you mentioned, every 4 years they rotate.
Seriously, it's years ahead.
So sometimes, schools will schedule somebody else when that school's not very good, and then suddenly that school gets better.
That's always really hilarious.
Yeah. And two, like your non-conference schedule does affect your playoff chances. So if you pick, the worst of the lot for your non-conference, it might hurt you in the end.
Bite you in the butt.
Have, like we said, 5 schools that are, have the same record. So, but so that's kind of
another thing that can bite you in the butt. Problem with Clemson is your whole conference could suck. And it's nothing. Clemson is amazing, and Clemson would beat just about anybody who was in their conference. So they're in the ACC out on the East Coast, the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they are about a step higher than everybody. And so it's actually like it hurts them. It hurts them more than than other places to lose a game. But that's another example of the conference thing. Like you can only play who's in front of you. But they're so amazing, and it's just like I feel like I don't like their coach very much, Dabo, but I feel kind of bad for them because it's just like, oh man, like I can only play North Carolina and who are playing better, and Duke and traditional basketball schools, but they're not great at. ACC has great basketball schools, but not great football schools. So and
so those, I guess that's a little bit of a glimpse into the bowl discussion too, like so pretty much ways that you want to like maximize possibly being drafted to, like there is a whole nother discussion on that. So
wow,
that was
I'm sorry, we tried to keep it short.
No, but you know what, and this is why I wanted to do this, because like I said, you call me a casual fan. I'm a casual fan. I just watch what I can, basically.
Yeah.
The nuances to this are mad. I didn't realize there's so much. Right, let me just make sure to ask some questions real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with you mentioned where it's kind of like they become a free agent and they get to kind of pick the hat of the college that they want to join and such.
Mm-hmm.
With that decision, I know you mentioned that obviously parents might have their say and stuff. Who actually has the final decision into what college they make?
The kid.
Yeah, the student player.
The kid, yeah. I've seen those hat ceremonies where the mom walked away from the table. It was one of ours. I think it was an LSU fan. And he went to I don't even know if he went to a rival. He might have went to Alabama. That's our biggest rival. And of course, they're the best college in the country. So that's not good for me. But I think she walked away from the table. Like she was like,
wow.
I mean, Of course, she's still gonna love her son, but this is why I was telling you, I love to see the like the local people in England with their small clubs, and like they're just like the diehard fans. It's the same way for I love that passion. And yeah, if I had a child and they wanted to go to Alabama, I would be upset. I wouldn't hate them for it, but I would not wear any of the gear. Like I would not wear an Alabama jersey. Like it's that real. It's that serious.
Just going back to that particular parent, you said the mother that walked away.
She walked away. Yeah.
What? Why is it such a bad thing? I mean, I guess maybe if it's I wouldn't really go and throw in a Brighton top, would I?
Yeah. It might have been a TV. It might have been a TV stunt. She knew she was being filmed, but she walked away from the table. But I would be, I would be disappointed. Now, if my child went to an NFL team that I was against, they're getting paid anyway. So I was like, I guess I'm a Cowboys fan. Like, I guess I'll wear a Giants jersey or a Redskins jersey because there's money involved now. So, but on the college level, I would be upset if my Alabama the most. That's a deep story with the Alabama with the coach. He used to be our coach, and he left, and now he's like the greatest coach in history. So that's like an extra dagger. He's coaching our rival, and he's like amazing. So that's that could be, once again, I'm sorry, anybody watching, another discussion for another day.
That seems to happen a lot. Our head coach used to be y'all's former defensive coordinator.
I loved him so much. So. He's so great. He's so great.
Let's talk about the nuances in the game. So I believe the NFL, it's 6 points for a touchdown.
Yes.
And then the extra point. Is the scoring system the same for college football?
The score system is the same from when you play Pop Warner, the Little League. I call it Little League where I'm from. Some people call it Pop Warner. From when you first playing flag football, they're grabbing the flag off your jersey. Okay. It's that's one good thing. It's consistent. The score system is consistent. There's other nuances. Scoring is the same though.
There is, I guess, sort of like the biggest thing, the difference, I would say, scoring within college football and the NFL is that if you are catching the ball, you only have to have 1 foot in bounds in college football versus the 2 feet in the NFL.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's going in the rules though. Like I was scared that I didn't want to dabble with.
Yeah. I guess.
Like I said, we can do many more of these shows and such. I'm just gonna slowly, just as an introduction, just kind of just picking your brains on things. So okay, we've covered the scoring, we've covered the feet now. I noticed there's a massive thing to do with like showboating. Like that's like a no-no in college. Is that rules again? So that's going deep.
So
just brief. So the question was more so, why is it not promoted in college, but so much more acceptable in the NFL?
I think taunting is the big. So like, if I score a touchdown, I think if you do a little bit of a dance, a little bit of a celebration, it's good. But I think they want to keep it mild and not go outrageous. I can't quite be sure, right? But if I say this is a football and I catch a pass, not even a touchdown, I catch a pass on the sideline, and Rich, you're trying to defend me, I catch it over you. If I take that football, put it in your face, and then drop the ball like that or something, that's taunting. And so they kind of want to crack down, because I feel like maybe because it could start a fight if you taunt, maybe maybe.
I was gonna say too, like being younger kids, they're gonna be less. I guess they're probably less control of themselves, right? I do see that you can see like more altercations happen just because of just the nature of a young and up and coming kid.
Testosterone,
chip on your shoulder, like you know what I mean, like. So I think that's probably like really the big reason why, and you can't, like, unlike NFL players, you can't just find them and then have them take the punishment. Or I guess you can't necessarily find college kids. I don't know, maybe you could. I don't now they make money, but
no, they don't. Yeah, I think they just like the a 15-yard penalty. It takes 10. It traditionally takes you have to make 10 yards in 4 tries to get another set of downs, to then get 4 more tries. And most of those tauntings are 15 yards, all of them. Yeah, actually, any type of thing like that, that's 15 yards. So that hurts is yeah, that, as long as nobody's getting, punched or anything, they'll throw you out of the game. But I think that yardage would, that's a big punishment. That could change the game, change the momentum.
Okay. 2 more questions before we wrap up.
Sure.
The first one's regarding the different conferences. And obviously you mentioned there's quite a few. Just surprised to obviously hear you not say that, well, within the conference there are like sub-conferences and stuff. It's just like how much does money play a massive factor into, for example, who plays who, and you mentioned the different roles championships, like is it an even playing field across the different conferences, or is it listen, money plays a massive factor here?
I think, well, money plays a difference, but not in the way like money won't get one school a bowl. Not directly, money won't get one school a bowl over another school. Like they can't. I don't think they can really manipulate that. If whoever played the best that year, because most of the top schools have money, so and they have the fans, so like they're gonna get there regardless. So I don't think one college team, because these are still educational institutions, so like there's some shady stuff that goes on, but I don't think they can, as far as I know, they can outright buy themselves into the bid or vote. They can try to pay and buy players to come to play for their school to win those games. But like if a school is not traditional, like I don't know when the last time I swear to God, no shade, but I don't know when the last time Baylor like maybe won a national championship or something. But if Baylor won the Big 12 and they're going and they won the Big 12 decisively, they're going to the top bowl game and they're going to the championship game. It's just gonna happen. You can't you can't manipulate that. So that's the one good thing. Like there's a merit. Like even if it's a non-traditional school, if a school has a crazy season, they're gonna get their chance to prove themselves.
So on that, let's. I'm gonna throw a hypothetical. Let's just say Baylor. I'm not like no name wise. They're a very big institution, but they've never like won the Big 12 for like 30, 40 years, and then they eventually do win it. Is it then they're going into the bowl because of merit, or is it because they're going because of name?
Merit. It's still merit.
Yeah. So it's 6 wins from that individual season, regardless. You do have some that are 5-5. It's a rare case, but it generally what they do is they look at the best performers. So if you lost a game in like second overtime versus a really good school, and that's why you're 5-5, something like that.
So and another thing too, like smaller schools or like LSU, certain pockets of the country. Just to dive into real quick, the best high school athletes are going to be in Texas, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana. California's up there too. California has some of the best athletes, and then randomly New Jersey always has. I think New Jersey, that's a pocket of like good people up there. So, but in that little piece of the South I was talking about, like LSU, if we have like a 7, we're expected to win 9 or 10 games or more every year. That's our standard. If we come in with like a 7 or 8 win, like our bowl game is still going to be crazy. We're drunk Cajuns. Like we're still going to be at the game, partying, having fun, no matter. Like we went to play Wisconsin a couple years ago. They ran out of beer. They ran out of beer at Wisconsin. And so everybody's talking about UCLA game. Like if people get to come, it's like, I hope they're stocking up on enough beer. But long story short, like we will show up regardless. So whatever town gets to our game, they're going to make a ton of money. So like in like a smaller school, they might, like if they're having a bad season, the crowd, you look out in the stands and the stands won't be packed. But even like smaller or not traditionally powerhouse schools, it's so fun to watch. You watch the first game of the season, there's not a lot of people there, and then as they go undefeated, more and more people will start coming to the games. So it's not like certain parts of the country, Florida, Texas, like they're going to be at the game regardless of how bad we are. We're just going to be there. But some of those, so they'll still, basically what I'm trying to say is those bowl games are still going to get money because the fans near that school, the more they start winning, they'll start coming to the games, and they'll all come to the bowl game, and everybody will make money from that, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, like it's sort of funny too. Like you see that in like warmer weather schools too. Like if the school's not very good, especially like starting in August when it's hot, you don't see
Exactly.
hardly anybody, right? You wait until like November when like suddenly like the cool weather kicks in and like you see like more fans. But it's
Yeah,
just kind of funny.
definitely say that. Yeah, been in the South for sure.
There it is. Before I say what my last question is, Guy, yeah, we're definitely going to do another one because I want to ask questions regarding the fans, whether they do mixed seating, because sometimes I see in the NFL you get the odd random opponent mixing and stuff. So I want to look at that. I want to look at the JUCO system a lot deeper. Last Chance You has been superb, by the way. Like I love that series.
Yeah. Can I say something before we cut out? Like anybody, doesn't usually watch football in England or somewhere, and it's just like kind of like I hear them tell people like, yeah, just pick a Premier League squad and just root for. Like I say the same thing. Don't pick a really bad team, like because that's kind of be sad, but like pick a decent team and like see if I don't know how easy it is for you guys to catch college football games. See if you can pick a team.
My final question.
Yeah, pick a team and root. Yeah, oh, good. I was like, I'm just saying, like, pick a team to root for, and it's just college is so fun. Just pick a team to root for and just try to stick with them. Like I stumbled into my Premier League. I mean, it's one of the biggest teams in the world, but I stumbled in being a Manchester United fan because of a Wayne Rooney commercial, and I just like I knew nothing about football, and I was just like, oh, he looks fun, and I just started watching. So like, it happens like that. Just pick one you think is fun and just stick to it, man. Stick to it. Maybe not if it's a West Coast school, good luck with that. You might be up at like Sunday morning at like 6 a.m. watching the game or 5 a.m. But yeah, that's my last thing I want to say. Pick a school and try one out, man. It's fun. Yeah, pick a fun school. Yeah.
My last question was actually if you were to advise the people, whether it's the UK or around the world, who've never accessed college football, what would be like the starting position? What would you suggest they do? Would it be like jump on the YouTube? Would you suggest maybe start with NFL first? Like, what would be your advice?
I would say if you can get ESPN and watch ESPN Game Day. That show is
That's it.
The best way because so you have four analysts. They
travel. It'll be 1 p.m. y'all's time, 1 or 2 p.m. y'all's time.
Yeah,
that's decent.
And so they travel week by week to different university campuses. They put the set there. There's a giant crowd of students behind them. They're all cheering. They usually have hilarious signs in the background. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you want to spot the funniest sign too. It's sort of a good thing to watch on the back end. And then they just make predictions. They show highlights, and usually, the big headliner game. You want to talk about what Corso does?
Yeah. So they predict all the games. They'll have a celebrity come on to help make a decision for the game, and Lee Corso, this old football coach, he picks the team who he thinks is going to win. So he will hide out and grab like the big foam mascot head. He has it hidden under the counter. And so like when you're like, who's gonna pick? Who am I gonna pick? And then he puts the mascot head on and starts cheering. The crowd boos or goes because it's like they're at whoever the home team is for the primetime game. So like if the home team, if he thinks they're gonna lose, like he puts the mascot head on and just starts dancing, and like that is a good way. They usually have like a sad I started to hate watching it because they put a sad story that like a tearjerker, like this is one student, he lost his leg but he came back, and it'll be something super sad and like, but yeah, it's a complete show. I completely forgot about game day. Santiago is exactly right. He's exactly right.
Okay, so let's just put like a scenario, like let's say like Michigan or Michigan State, who are the Spartans, are playing Michigan. Right, it's normally like a big rivalry or whatever, and like So the guy will literally be like, all right, and like, who we're gonna be predicting for the winner, and he just does this, and then like he comes up and he's just like, Michigan,
That's his-
and like everybody just goes freaking nuts. Like, it's hilarious.
That's the Michigan. That's real similar to the Michigan State. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Is that why you walked off to get that prep?
That is.
I was wondering what I thought he had a Baylor gear, like mascot, like a bear. Yeah. Oh my God, that's great. That's a great.
Guys, thank you so much for this. We're gonna do this again. There's so much to it. Guys across the world, whether you're watching from, if you've not come into college football before, just watch this over, watch this back.
Yeah.
I believe the new season starts August 28th.
Yeah, into August.
I'm trying to keep. I've said to myself this year, I really want to be into it. So
I'm going to put you on the spot. Who are you watching? Who's your team?
I ain't sorted that out yet.
Okay.
I've got a week and a half. But I will pick one for the start of the season. And
Great.
and I'm going to do my best to follow them and take it from there.
All right.
Love it.
Guys, big up Santiago, big up Jay. Absolute pleasure. We are going to do this again. Absolutely. This is USI. And this is amazing. This is actually amazing. No, you know what I mean? I've learned so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, guys. Continue to subscribe to Eagle Eye Football. So it's not just about football, guys. We're talking US sport too. US sport. So this is the College Football 101. Look out for that. There's going to be a basketball one, a hockey one, and NFL one. We're going to be trying out so much. American sports for us to get to grips with. So yeah, big up to my guys again, man. It's been brilliant. Thanks you for your time and subscribe to Eagle Eyed Football.